Welcome back to the second part of my video series around the ITIL Foundation. My main goal is to help you to succeed in the ITIL Foundation certification path. Hi, I'm Wieger Vellema, ITIL Master and Ambassador. A lot, if not most of the material I used in this video do come from the Peoplecert website, foundation book and learner documentation. As promised in part 1, the video introduction, I would share per video which areas of the syllabus I'm going to cover in each video. In this video I'm going to talk about the key concepts of service management, a lot of the definitions to remember, creating value with services and the key concepts of service relationships. The key concepts of creating value with service. On this topic I am going to talk about output, outcome, value, risks and more. When I created this video, I considered if I first should talk about the service value system or follow the general learning path and talk about the key concept. I decided to talk about the service value system in a later video, however, still could not resist to show it quickly in this video. In the next slide I'm going to talk about the following items: service, utility, warranty, customer, user, service management, sponsor and stakeholders. Questions from the certifications are at Bloom Level 1. Hence, you need to be able to recall them. Some of the definitions will be logical, but just as a reminder and freshening up everything from an ITIL perspective. I will go over these fairly quickly and read out the definitions to move on to the next section in this video and talk about the key concepts of creating value with services. A good understanding of the key concepts and their terminology is critical for the good use of the ITIL guidance. It's not just for getting your ITIL Foundation certification. I personally did find the knowledge of the ITIL framework extremely helpful dealing with issues with my work life. Talking about different definitions, let's ask ourselves first, what is service management? Do you think you are involved in it? Is it just managing a service or is there more to do with service management? Let us take a look at the definition of service management. A set of specialized organization capabilities for enabling value for customers in the form of services. It is a holistic approach end-to-end from demand to value. If you recall the slide I quickly showed about the service value system, it starts with demand or opportunity to create value for our customers. Hence, to come back to my initial question, are you involved in service management? I'm pretty sure you are, one way or the other involved in service management, where you are busy creating value for stakeholders. This can be service assurance, service delivery, sales or any other function to deliver value for stakeholders. A term you often hear is co-creation of value. In the end, you need more parties in the creation of value. We can build the most brilliant services, but if they are not used, there is no co-creation of value or usage of the service. From a lean perspective, we would call this waste and should stop the service. Stakeholders are important. This is a person who has an interest in something we deliver or what we do. There are internal and external stakeholders. Some examples of internal stakeholders are employees, internal customers. Example of external stakeholders are external users, customers, governmental bodies, suppliers and vendors. In the table 2.1, which I took from the Foundation ebook, you'll find some more examples of stakeholders. If you entered your exam code on Peoplecert, you will get access to the ebook for further studying. Service, a means of enabling value co-creation by facilitating desired outcomes without the customer having to manage specific costs and risks. In other words, the consumer asks a service provider to do activities which, for instance, is not their core business, hence work with another party to deliver that service to them. To give a very simple example, if you have a package which needs to be delivered across the country to its destination, you ask a logistic company to deliver that package for you. The logistic company takes care of the transportation and the risk during the transportation. You pay a fee to them to get a package delivered at the other side of the country. You do not have to worry about the costs or risks of the logistics process. It is a service you acquire to get a package delivered to its destination. A product is a configuration of an organization's resources designed to offer value for a consumer. In previous example, the logistic company has a product for package delivery. We drop it off and the resources, processes and practices make sure it's get delivered at its destination. To take the key message from the foundation book, the services that an organization provides are based on one or more of its products. Organizations own or have access to a variety of resources, including people, information and technology, value streams and processes, and partners and suppliers. Products are a configuration of these resources created by the organization that will potentially be valuable for its customers. If you already have completed your training, you recognize the four dimensions in this message. Not sure why, but I have been struggling for some time to keep both warranty and unity separate and keep remember what both do mean. Mainly what utility, as it can have different meanings depending on the context it is used. I'm not going to read out these descriptions. You can pause the video for a moment and read them. It is important to have utility and warranty defined for the services, having the right functionality and a guarantee that requirements will be met as stated in the service offering. To have utility, a service must either support the performance of the consumer or remove constraints from the consumer. Many services do both. They must be fit for purpose. Warranty often relates to the service levels aligned with the needs of a service consumer. This may be based on a formal agreement. Warranty typically addresses areas such as the availability of the service, its capacity, levels of security and continuity. A service may be said to provide acceptable assurance or warranty. If all defined and agreed conditions are met, it is fit for use. For any service, it is important that both utility and warranty are fulfilled to create the desired outcome. With this slide, I'm going to cover the role of users, sponsors and customers, or just short, the service consumer roles. Users are the ones who actually use the service. Sponsors who authorize the funding, and the customer is involved in defining the requirements and takes responsibility for the outcomes. For most organizations, these roles are generally separate roles. However, the roles can be performed by a single person, for example, a one-man company, or you purchasing, for example, a new television. You define the requirements, the budget, and in the end will be the user of your newly bought television. I talked about service provider already a few times. We often take this as an external party, but a service provider can be an internal party, a department delivering services to other parts of the business you are part of. A service provider is an organization to create and deliver services to another party, either internal or external. In the next slides, I'm going to talk about the following items, which in some cases will include the definitions of these topics. And no, I'm not going to read them all out. You can all see them here on the screen. Now, let's go on with it and dive deeper into these exciting topics. In the heading of this slide, I started with the abbreviation VOCR, which stands for Value, Outcome, Costs and Risks, an abbreviation you will come across more often. The term value is regularly used in service management, not only related towards the ITIL framework. It is a key focus in ITIL, but you also come across it in DevOps and Lean as a key item. The value definition, the perceived benefits, usefulness and importance of something. Start thinking about it when something is important to us, our customers. It is about adding something, a benefit or something useful, delivering a need or a requirement for the stakeholder. For value creation, we have service providers delivering a service and service consumers obtaining the service. We need to have value co-creation, as I referred to earlier in this video. Costs, the money we spend in the end on achieving something. As I will show in the next slide, there are two types of cost. Costs introduced and costs removed in a service relationship. The purpose of risk management practice. A possible event that would cause harm or loss or make it more difficult to achieve objectives. Can also be defined as uncertainty of outcome and can be used in the context of measuring the probability of positive outcomes as well as negative outcomes. Output and outcome sometimes are mixed with each other, which should not be mixed up. Outcome is a result of something, which can be multiple outputs from different processes. As you can read in the slide, an output is the result of an activity and likely to be used as an input for another activity to create the output required for an outcome. Nothing in our daily life is without risk. Risks are a possible event that could cause harm or loss, or make it more difficult to achieve objectives. Can also be defined as uncertainty of outcome, and can be used in the context of measuring the probability of positive outcomes as well as negative outcomes. We look at two types of risks: risks removed from the customer or risk introduced by a service to the customer. It is the responsibility of the service provider to manage these risks on behalf of the service consumer. A bit double slide looking at the previous slide, however, still very useful. It is all about value and value co-creation. Figure 2.2 out of the Foundation book shows us the balance between costs, risks and outcome. What are the risks introduced versus removed? Costs removed versus introduced, etc. Organizations come in various shapes and sizes, from multinational corporations to local non-profits. At the core, organizations are dynamic entities that bring people together to achieve common goals. They operate with a web of structure, culture and processes. Hierarchies emerge, roles are defined and communication channels established. From an ITIL perspective, we define an organization as a person or a group of people that has its own functions with responsibilities, authorities and relationships to achieve its objectives. In the last section of this video, I'm going to talk about service offering, service relationship management, service provisioning and consumption. As some of you might have noticed, I'm trying to follow a bit the order how you can find everything back in the syllabus on the items you need to know. A service offering, or maybe I should state marketing statement, the way how a service provider makes their promises to the market and service consumers with a formal statement. To read it out, a formal description of one or more services designed to address the needs of a target customer group. A service offering may include goods, key to resources and service actions. As mentioned, service offering can be goods to be supplied, for example, you buying your television. Access to resources, for example, your Disney, Netflix or Amazon Prime subscription. You are granted access to content. Service actions performed by a provider, for example, user support. What are service relationships? Just look at it from a definition point of view. Service relationships are a cooperation between a service provider and service consumer. You need to have two or more parties to co-create value. Service relationships include service provisioning, service consumption and service relationship management. There's a lot behind the service relationship management practice and extremely important for the continuous delivery of co-creation of value between the customer and the provider. In this picture you see the service relationship model. What it is showing is that every service provider in the end is also a service consumer. It also requires services from another service provider or supplier to create and deliver its services to other consumers. Between all these parties we have relations, agreements, or in other words, service relationships. Service relationship management is a joint activity performed by a service provider and a service consumer to ensure continual value co-creation based on agreed and available service offerings. Service provisioning make sure the required services are properly configured, access to service provider resources is arranged, and that goods have been transferred if applicable. Service consumer is a generic role that is used to simplify the definition and description of the structure of service relationships. In practice, there are more specific roles involved in service consumption, such as customers, users, and sponsors. These roles can be separate or combined, as I talked about customers, users and sponsors earlier in this video. They can be separate roles or combined in a single role. I used the example of buying a new television. This video is about the key concepts of service management. What do you need to know from an ITIL Foundation point of view with respect to the several definitions? Being able to describe the key concepts in creating value with services and understand the key concepts of service relationship. Just as a quick recap, I talked about the following definitions: service, utility and warranty, customer, user, sponsor, and service management. I further on talked about the concepts of creating value, the difference between output and outcome. Being able to describe the key concepts of service relationship, what is a service offering and what does service relationship management mean? Similarly, what is meant with the service provision and service consumption, the role of service provider and consumer. Just as a reminder, did I cover everything you need to know? No, I do not. This video is just too short to cover everything from a full training perspective. I did cover most of the topics you will need to have made your own. This in the end is an addition to your learning path to help you succeed on your ITIL Foundation journey. A quick quiz, just a few questions. Before I show the multiple choice answers, read the questions and think of the answer before reading the answers. You get an idea here of the possible answers. I gave you a little bit of time to look at the answer. The answer here is outcome. One more question. Again, read the answer and think of the possible answer. The correct answer is service relationship management. Service relationship management are joint activities performed by a service provider and a service consumer to ensure continual value co-creation based on agreed and available service offering. You also could go over the answers in the following way. For co-creation, you need at least two parties. Service provision is only done by the service provider. Consumption only by the service consumer. And service offering is a marketing statement from the service provider. For service relationship management, you do need to have two parties involved to the co-creation of value. We reached the end of this video. If you like this video, please do not hesitate to leave a comment or like this video. Similarly, if you do not like it, do let me know why you do not like this video. It will give me the chance to improve the video in the future. Thank you for watching my video. Please do check out my other videos on ITIL 4.